Hello and welcome to Grinding Meaning. Number 19, Your Elephant's Demon-Haunted World. Hi, I'm the Expert Layman. Back in World of Warcraft, actually my first stream in Burning Crusade. And I love the art. They've done such a good job with this stuff. And sorry about the stream issues earlier. I don't know why. Occasionally, anybody who deals with OBS knows it's... what would you say? Testing. But, and I'm sure it has nothing to do with how long it's been since I restarted my computer and what I've done since I restarted it. No, I'm going to blame OBS. I can't seem to stay away from the Jonathan Haidt's Elephant and Rider model, mostly because it lets me talk about a lot of stuff I'd really like to talk about, but, like, there's no good way except, like, I don't know, it just makes things easier. So, I hate explaining the same thing over and over again, because every time you say a thing, you lose a little bit of sincerity, and it's unavoidable, and it sneaks up on you. You think you're still, like, saying things, but you're just kind of, like, working a script. I'd rather not do that. But, in essence, it's a split between the rider is your conscious, self-aware side, you know, your reasoning, and the elephant is your unconscious, emotional side. You might say, like, the reason I should for something to do here, something that isn't going to require a whole lot of my attention. That looks good. Like I said in the description, like, your elephant and rider live in very different worlds, and the reason it's so hard to understand the behavior of really screwed up people is because their elephant, it's usually because their elephant is taken over and is just running rampant and making all of their decisions, and you're like, well, how could they think that would make sense? Like, you see all the contradictions, you see all the issues with it, but the biggest difference, in my opinion, and I'm just going to be talking about my opinion here, this is such a, I don't know, this is an area where, like, scientific description kind of breaks down because you're talking about experience a lot. But the biggest distinction... Wait, this isn't where I'm going. I'm totally paying attention. The biggest distinction between the two is actually the distinctions that the elephant doesn't make. Things like contradiction. Like, in the demon-haunted world, like, you aren't two things at once. You're a thing, and then you're something else. And like I said, language kind of breaks down here, but the idea that you can have two mutually exclusive goals that you're pursuing simultaneously is irrational to the conscious self. But the elephant doesn't really work that way. I think another God damn it. I should just get away from the action. This has taken a little bit more of my concentration than I thought it would. Weird thing is, if I'm playing Rocket League, it's like I could just talk forever, but, like, I have to actually, like, figure out where I'm at and what I need to do here. Really? Check. We recommend a bitrate of 4500 for 1080p 60, which I am now running at because for some reason 4K has become problematic, which it never was before, but sure, I can run Elite Dangerous in 4K, you know, ultra widescreen, but World of Warcraft Classic, that's a killer. It's another video that I have almost done a bunch of times, which is talking about the autism spectrum, which is one way of looking at what distinguishes an autistic person from someone who isn't is they have... you're not supposed to have a conscious experience of what the elephant is going through. You're just supposed to feel it. You're not... But with a lot of autistic people, in my opinion, they're seeing more of the demon-haunted world, so it's just like so much more intense. Aggression feels so much more threatening, and, you know, and symmetry in nature is like, I don't know, it's like communing with God. Like you're out of balance. Your elephant is too much in I don't know, prominence, or you're experiencing too much of the elephant's world. But then on the other end of the spectrum, which there is, and that was going to be the title of the video, it'd be Autism Socialism, as opposed to socialism. Autism, Socialism, and a true spectrum, because nobody seems to think that there's anything at the other end of the spectrum. And that would, you know, at least in the way I'm looking at it. And then I gotta... At the other end of the spectrum, you basically have something like a sociopath, but that tends to get grouped with other stuff. But someone who experiences significantly less of the demon-haunted world. In other words, they're not as affected emotionally by their own behavior, by the actions of other people. Basically, this is how you end up with people without a whole lot of empathy, or with none at all. It's just they don't feel it because, you know, it's not in their reality. So it seems like a good balance between the two, where you feel the effects of it, but you don't actually experience it too intensely because it's overwhelming. Well, for someone who it was overwhelming for several decades, it's a scary place. And I shouldn't say that it's the demon-haunted world, because the demon-haunted world is just the evolved lens or complex human behaviors and, you know, social systems in a format that more people can make use of it. And it's kind of one of those things like if people weren't making use of it, it wouldn't have risen to where it's at. So, and this is also why the other thing going on here is I've been meaning to read The Demon Haunted World for a really long time. It's been recommended by so many people over the years, and I just never got to it. I should probably... I have not literally checked my stream, which is weird. A little space over here. Okay, give me 2 seconds. The Autism Association split is, I think, a better way of looking at it. See, the problem is the problem with psychology is it's vastly more complicated. It's like the hardest thing you could possibly study, and you got to do it through people, which is like the worst way to try to do anything objectively. So the task of psychology is so huge that I don't want to sound like I'm just ripping on them, but also the institution seems to have lost its ability to do what it was mandated to do. Whereas, like, you know, the big psychology, who has been bringing to the public the big news, you know, increasing our wealth of knowledge about our own psychology. Where has that been coming from? I mean, You have AI research, which we're learning a lot. Social media data, learning a ton there. A silly face swap app with where it'll put a cat face on you. And it's like, that's how we found out that cats actually know that that's your face in the screen, because cats will immediately turn around to confirm if their human suddenly gained a cat face. So you have like this silly face swap app that just demolished dozens of highly cited psychology papers. So when you were previously almost self-identifying as a skeptic, you really don't want to behave in the way of people that you've previously criticized. But I think it's also an ownership of, I guess it's just a truth. Like, the nutters will see things before anybody else. Unfortunately, the nutters also see a lot of stuff that isn't there. So a lot of the criticisms of science that opportunistic Christian apologists and the like would present were not accurate and, hyperbolic and, dishonest and unfair and all that. If they were saying it today, I'm not sure I would be so critical. Just because it doesn't seem like anything would get done. Like the institutions have just tied themselves in knots where they can't move anymore. And there's still lots of really good people, but the really good people just you got to put your finger in there. If you want to get anything done, you got to work within the system. When the system just starts to become a bottleneck where nothing can get done, like, people still want to know stuff, and if you are not providing the additions to the wealth of human knowledge that you used to, and it's now coming from someplace else, you have a real problem. Especially if you're presenting yourself as the authority. God, I think I'm eating my mic. Especially if you're presenting yourself as the authority on a thing, but you're not actually doing the service that authority would mandate. So, I don't know. And there's some things you just can't figure out in groups very well. But back to the Autism Association. And I also have the opinion that type of autism, like where you see meaning in natural patterns, whether, be geometric shapes or oil on water or just the motion of water or flame or something like that, like the animations I make, there's a reason why the demographics of my channel appear to be autistic people and psychedelic adventurers. It's just, I think certain types of substances impair you similarly to an autistic person, but since your brain didn't develop in that state, you don't just start acting like an autistic person. Well, you kind of do, but but so I've had the opinion for a while, ever since I was in my teens, and I ended up hanging out with somebody who was, initially tripping balls. It's like, I've never connected with somebody so much. It's like, oh my God. It's like, and then I meet them, go to hang out with them when they're normal. And it's like, okay, this is just not working the same. And that's why, autistic types are so much less aggressive, because like when someone's expressing aggression on you, you won't actually see it, but like your elephant will see, like, it's almost like a Dragon Ball Z character powering up, like energy is emanating out from them and their eyes are glowing, and it's a super intimidating thing. And in reality, on a camera, it's just a person kind of standing with their hands on their hips, like, maybe being a little bit above you. But in the elephant's world, you are on your back with like your feet in the air, hoping the alpha doesn't rip your throat out for breaking the rules. Like that's closer to what you're experiencing, and the closer that is to the surface instead of buried, the less inclined. So it looks like everybody else is more aggressive, and this is something I've seen in Rocket League, and I've noticed for a long time, is that there were a lot of people that I thought were being toxic, but when I matched their play style, they weren't offended by it at all. This was just normal for them. is kind of analogous to just some people are more aggressive than others. And I think I've mentioned that one supervisor I had for a while, who I just got so fed up with him and just being an unbelievable, just going out of his way to try to upset people. And I just decided, because I'd sort of seen something like this work before, where I was just basically a dick to him at every time I had an opportunity to be a dick to that guy, I was. And then he started liking me. It got creepy. Like, oh, I just learned a little bit too much about your family life. But there are some people that just won't respect you if you're too nice, because in their experience, nice people are phony. I mean, that's kind of it's almost like a Russian thing. When I've heard Russians talk about cultural differences, like, hey, we're going to put a McDonald's, and they're telling people to smile to the customers, like, what do you mean smile? Smile to people I don't know? Like, do you understand anything about Russians? And I don't know if that's the case so much anymore, but like, there's just a difference. And I guess that's a situation where, a higher level of aggression, but it's not really higher because it's all relative to what you're used to and what's normal in your environment. So I don't want to be an aggression relativist, but the elephant doesn't make that distinction. That only lives in the moment. Maybe I should have gotten a list of things together. Oh, totally drawing a blank here. Maybe I'll play some game and it'll occur to me. That is one thing I'm really trying to carve out right here. What does elephant reasoning look like, and what does rider reasoning look like? And you can kind of get hints at the edges of how this works. Little things like, don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry. Because, whether you want to call it a sub-personality or a drive or whatever, a demon, gluttony, however you want to conceptualize this thing, it only exists in the moment. So if you're not hungry and you're looking at food, it's got no power over your behavior because it's not the moment where it has influence. And you can almost look at it as like I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna spend some time just cutting up shorts so I can get ahead, shorts videos that I do for YouTube. And I'm gonna do this. And as soon as I walk in my room, it's like, well, I've been doing that. I see my toys and I'm going to play for a while, apparently. So you chain... So much of your decision-making is actually made by the elephant. So a lot of times it's just like... It's good to invest in like self-observation. Like, okay, why did I do that? Okay. And you don't have to wait for like something weird because, your unconscious mind will hide those things from you. You actually have to go out and look at it and just like take a moment and be like, okay, now why would I do that? And just kind of reverse engineer your own reasoning as if you were someone else. Like Monty Python, they said the soul does not they put it. By the way, I love Monty Python doing American accents. The soul does not exist ab initio as Orthodox Christianity teaches, but must be brought into existence through a period of guided self-observation. This is rarely achieved due to man's unique ability to become distracted by trivial matters. Did anybody ever notice that building before? Like, you have to observe your elephant. And I know it's kind of dangerous to detach yourself from the responsibility of what you're doing, but you're still responsible. It's just that responsibility isn't exactly in the moment. Okay, that's a bad way to put it. Watch my free will video, it'll make more sense. I think I really just wanted to get on and stream and do a stream. I thought there was a lot more here, but every time I go to talk about something, I realize I'm opening up something huge I'm not ready to get into yet. Burning Crusade. Oh, Burning Crusade has been fun. I don't know, I'm kind of dying here. Suddenly not feeling that great, and I have lost things to talk about, which is probably why I'm not feeling so great. Just because it's like when you don't want to go to work and suddenly your stomach starts hurting, and then as soon as you call in, it's like, wow, I feel so much better. That's amazing. I wonder why that happened. It's like, elephant. Because it'd be really convenient for you to feel bad right now. So, wow, look at what happened. You feel bad. I've known people who... Okay, I'm not talking about that person. Oh, yeah, I did want to talk about the Demon Haunted World thing. And I've been wanting to read the book for a while, and it's rough. Like, I didn't realize this was like... I wasn't expecting the Bible of Scientism. I really wasn't. And... Okay, if you're trying to teach people tools, you make them agnostic of content. In other words, if someone comes to you and they're making you aware of a problem you didn't know about, and they're also offering a solution to that problem you didn't know about, and it only costs money, that's something to be skeptical of. You don't need to name who's doing what or why. People will go out there and try to make money scamming people, but on the other side of that, there are people out there who don't want to own their limited level of success and want to tell themselves stories that they are essentially more effective than they are, and then people will provide a service to them, because deception is often, like a cooperative activity. They want to believe they're smart and are on the inside of this special thing, and the other person's like, you're an idiot and I'm taking advantage of you. There's almost like an agreement in certain situations, which I probably won't be a popular opinion, but I don't know how I got off on this, but you kind of agree to it. And the thing that got brutal with Demon Haunted World was, he'd give an example of, something that's like irrational that people believed, like mostly a long time ago. The weird thing is, you listen to the book, it sounds like it was written in like the 60s or 70s, and then you look at it's written in like the late 90s, and it would have been a bit dated at the time. But it's just like repeatedly dunking on people who, okay, maybe not necessarily dunking on people, because that wasn't actually, it would be unfair to say that it was in the text that he was dunking on people, but when you provide way, way, way more examples for a thing than you need, and it's not to kind of elucidate the underlying, pattern, or trying to synthesize, some extract that you can use to recognize in other places. It's just one after another, and something about the context of that does feel like dunking. Like, when you provide way more examples than you need to, why are you doing that? What's that about? Like, there's a reason you're doing it. It also, instead of just individual, like, hey, this is a better way to look at this, or here's how these things often work, and these are the ways of thinking that will get you into trouble. It's, well, here's the process you need to use, because scientists use it, so you as an untrained scientist should use this simplified version that I'm providing you. And it's I don't want to say, it is almost like the Bible of scientism, because you can't go without a worldview of some kind. And I used to, follow the atheist and skeptical community. And it was kind of like this little game of, well, I don't believe anything and you believe something, so I can just kind of sit back and attack this thing you believe. And I know the atheists would take exception to that, but it's like, okay, what worldview are you presenting? And it's like, okay, well, this humanism stuff, but it's like, you can't gather people around to believe that. People can only gather around a believe in. And no matter how hard you try, if you gather people around a thing, it's going to turn into a believe in. And it also became clear that most of the people in the atheist skeptical community were there because they wanted to dunk on weaker people. Like, it doesn't take a whole lot of philosophical tools to be able to own all the Christians you know. And that was kind of a place where I got, where it's like, if I can If I can basically dominate the God debate from either podium just because I know all the tactics so well, it kind of in my mind anyway, it kind of makes the whole debate bullshit. Because it's not about the debate. It's about something else. Now, I'll speculate on what that's about, and for most of the participants, you want the blood sport. You want to go in there and fight. Different selfish motives. You're not making the world better. And I'm going to try to get through the rest of the book, but I'm like an hour straight of stupid crap people used to believe that don't seem to have any strong connecting threads with each other or applicable in anybody's life in the 90s when this book came out. And there's always going to be a group of people, a large group of people, that will just buy into whatever is replacing the current thing, because, you want to separate your identity from your parents and more broadly, your generation from the previous generation. So what they have, if you want to be unique, you got to have something different. And I guess that's part of it. Like you're trying to create your own identity. Have I mentioned that I have a lot of difficulty holding more than two things in my head at the same time? I'm like right now I'm like on stage as a juggler trying to impress people with my two balls that I can keep in the air at the same time. I didn't want to give up before 30 minutes, but I am just not in the state to do this right now. And I got through most of what I wanted to get through. I did a stream. I was terrified to do a stream. And then I finally did the stream. And then OBS, who I'm blaming even though it was almost certainly my fault, screwed up. And now I'm just happy I got it done. This has been Grinding Meaning, and I am the expert layman. It wouldn't be Grinding Meaning without an awkward closing. You all have a great day.